Farmers Market that's in its 31st year. I manage that. We have a huge street festival that has become state known called Bottle Hill Day, the first weekend in October, which draws about 20,000 people to town. I manage that. I manage all the Isle of Madison NJ social media on my own. It's an enormous amount of work, and without that steady funding foundation, it's very difficult. I'm always before the Borough Council, or can you give me some more money for this? We want to open an art center over here. Can we find some money to fund that? We just finished a huge gateway and wayfinding program. Now I gotta find a way to get the Borough Council to pay for it. It's $700,000. They're not thrilled. I said we can do it in phases.
They have it.
Yeah. And then now I'm involved with every new business, walking them through the processes of Borough Hall. I feel your pain. I did it for 3 years solid as a volunteer, and then talked them into creating this position so that I could, kind of do this at a more professional level. It's a lot, and there's uncertainty. I might be having contracted Steve soon.
Highly recommended. Very
News to me.
I've been asking the borough to look into this since I started 8 years ago, and I can't talk them into it. So maybe you guys can.
Let's do that.
But
I haven't gotten that done here yet either. Maybe after tonight.
I can't, I'm sort of like the oddball here, but it really is a very difficult thing to do without that, that security of the funding. And we spend about the same as you would in that scenario, but it is, I'm paid by the borough. We have money from the Main Street Foundation. I have to raise the money through the programs to pay for the programs. And so it's year over year. I mean, we've done a good job of, I don't know about anybody else, but over the last couple of years, during the early years of the pandemic, we were able to raise $200,000 to give directly to businesses for support. And I ran and created that program and did the begging. But what I've noticed in the couple of years since, begging, people don't really want to give as much as they did. And it's actually worse than it was pre-pandemic. It's been a lot more of a challenge to get people to contribute and be a part of the process. But that's my story. It's complicated, but happy to be here. Thank you.
I will be brief. Steve Grillo, Explore Milburn Short Hills. We've actually been in existence for only 2.5 years. We replaced prior SID, which was in place for 20 years, but actually disbanded itself, which takes a lot of work to disband yourself. But the reality is they did not have a full-time professional executive director, and they were not able to meet the fiduciary requirements that a SID has. Couldn't pass audits, nobody knew why certain vendors were being hired, no one could account for where the money was going. And so after 5 years of life support, it was disbanded prior to COVID, and the township said we need to bring in a new entity with new blood, with a new board, and a new executive director to help the businesses. And I think if you go to Milburn today, they will tell you one of the best decisions they've ever made. I'm a little biased, but so our budget is we actually assess $204,000, but our budget is really more about $300,000 between donations, grants, and then in-kind services that we receive from the town. So, for instance, if we put up a public art installation, the Department of Public Works will do that for us, so there's no cost out of pocket. So, in reality, we put about $300,000 out on the street every year. We have 206 assessed lots and 500 businesses. So we have a lot of large office complexes, not dissimilar to what you have in in the Morristown Road section. So I do represent 500 businesses, which is quite a bit. I think from an economic development standpoint, what I'm most proud of is in my 2+ years there. When I started, our vacancy rate was 16%, which is one of the highest I've ever experienced in 15 years of doing this business. We are now down to 4%. We've recruited 86 new businesses out as of today. 86 businesses in Millburn Short Hills today were not there 2 years ago. And how does that happen? It is from what everybody said today. It is hand-holding people to get through the difficult regulations and bureaucracy of New Jersey. No offense to our elected officials. It is not easy to start a business in New Jersey. That's what we are here for. I'll tell you a story to echo Natalie. Funny enough, it was a baby boutique. We were doing our Christmas event down in our Main Street pedestrian mall, which has won a statewide award for best in place maker in downtown New Jersey, selfish plug. And we have these wonderful igloos that are out, and you can sit in them and enjoy coffee and pizza, and we did fire pits, so people were making s'mores in the street. We had live music, and we had over 1,000 people for 2 weekends in a row. And so, long story short, a young woman comes up to me and says, "What is this?" I said, "Well, it's hosted by Explore Millburn Short Hills. We're the Special Improvement District." She says, "I'd really like to start a business here. I have a home-based baby boutique, but I'm really looking for something that's brick and mortar." I said, "Okay, here's my card. Let's stay in touch." This is December. In February, I get a call from a property owner. He says, "Listen, one of my tenants, she has a very serious medical issue. She needs to close her business. She has to have surgery. She doesn't think she can come back." Okay, has nothing to do with economics, has to do with personal life. That happens all the time. So I said, "Listen, I have the perfect person for you." The woman that went out was a high-end fashion boutique, 600 square feet, 700 square feet, small space. I introduced him to this baby boutique. The minute that woman left, the other woman started doing the fit out of the space. There will be a vacancy time of about 2 hours between when she left and when the contractor comes in. That is 100% because of my work in the city. I would have never met that woman had I not been on the street hosting a community event that had over 2,000 people over 2 weekends. And I handheld them through the process. And I knew the property owner well enough that he called me and gave me a heads up that there was going to be a vacancy. And I was able to put a new tenant in that space immediately. That is the difference between having someone there every day and paying the special assessment to make sure that professional is on the ground versus hoping that a volunteer will pick up the phone the 2 days they're in the office. And so that is it's a dramatic thing to say, but I'm telling you now, in 15 years of doing this and 4 other phenomenal SID directors, it is the truth. It's a competitive business. We're all competing as municipalities for business, and you have to be present, you have to be on the ground, and you have to know what you're doing. And so if you guys want to continue to grow and continue this positive economic trajectory, you have to have someone like Olivia who is there every day, getting the grants, working with the tenants, working with landlords to bring in new people, and putting in innovative programs. It is as simple as that. To me, it's not black and white. If you want to grow as a community and support economic development, and you don't do a SID, you've missed the boat. So that's my spiel.
So we're running short on time since we have a limited amount of time in the library. So I will just ask one question, and I will open it to anyone who wants to take a stab at it first. And then if you have a comment or something that's going on in your community that's relevant, and then we'll open it up to the floor as well. But just to kind of get this question and answer portion started, how would any one of you define the return on investment within the community? Obviously, as we know, this is a monetary investment, obviously from our businesses, our property owners. So how would you define that return that you're seeing in your communities?
Now, when you say return on investment, are you looking at foot traffic? Are you looking at economic development within having people working within the area? Give me a little bit more about.
All of the above?
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
well, because obviously, right, all of this is stemmed from our businesses to be more successful, right? Because people are actually walking in their door, because in our town, not a lot of folks are walking in town. And then also our properties some of them are very empty and need to be filled, right? So from that standpoint as well. So there's obviously multiple factors in the work that we do. So it's really all of the above. Which one can you define?
Okay, so I can tell you right now that when you have events within your town, the recognition from people coming in to see those events, And again, Steve's was a great example of that. Having them come in, again, and even the Scarecrows is another one. You get everyone involved. So it's not just the people that live in the town, it's those people from outside of town. And they're gonna come in, and they're gonna see the area, and they're gonna appreciate what was done, and they're gonna actually wanna get either more involved, maybe they bring a business into town. Maybe they wanna move into town after they see what's going on. So the more you do that, yes, the more foot traffic you're gonna get. You're gonna get people who are gonna wanna rent, they're gonna wanna live, so the return on investment is huge. Not just for events only, by the way, okay? Economic development is a big part of this, okay? Getting involved with keeping the beautification of it, keeping it looking great, making sure that if something happens, you're there to be able to help them. So the return on investment is not just, okay, I'm gonna bring people to your doors, okay, by marketing and having an event. That's part of it, but I think, and the best way you said it was consistency. The consistency of having these events, the consistency of having somebody there, the consistency of having these businesses stay and new ones come in, that's what's gonna bring people to move into town, to help the area. Getting the schools involved, getting the government involved. Everyone benefits from it. The return on investment is huge. And again, I'm gonna say it again, I'm a resident in my town, I owned a business, and I was a landlord. It's all a positive. I have no negatives to bring to the table, so that's the return on investment that I see. Anyone else?
I'll take
Please.
that. So in Somerville and all the places that I worked, so what I failed to mention was that before Jay came on board, I was also in union. I was actually their public information
yes,
officer.
yes.
And so I worked very closely with the downtown, so I got to see the transformation that really took place, right? Once the investments started coming in. So for us, I really have to say that the return on investment comes both tangibly and intangibly. We're more than events, right? As Jay alluded to, we're more than just increasing foot traffic, although that's something that I know we're all very good at. But it's about, what we've seen is that as a result of the special assessment, we have an increased economic vitality. We have increased investments that are coming into our downtown district. We have increased property values that are a direct result of the positive affect that we have as a district. So when you become a very popular district, right, the interest isn't just there to come and eat or shop, right? People start thinking about, wow, I wanna live here, right? I wanna invest in this community. And so when your town becomes desirable, right, there's a direct impact on economic vitality, which in turn becomes a direct impact on your property values. I'll give you guys a great example. Because we're a special improvement district, we collect that special assessment, we were able to go out and partner with Arterial Street Design Studio to come up with a streetscape capital plan. When we became a special improvement district, we were very reactive. So if you're not familiar with downtown Somerville's story, downtown Somerville was decimated by the Bridgewater Commons. Bridgewater Commons is 2 miles, literally 2 miles outside of our district. So at the height of mall culture, downtown Somerville became known as Scummerville. And our leadership tells stories of looking down Main Street and you could see a tumbleweed. And so, our mayor at the time was very proactive, learned about a town called Cranford, who became a special improvement district. He said, what is this, right? And so he jumped right in. And a lot of the projects that they took on as a special improvement district were very reactive. Okay, we're a special improvement district, how do we use this money? Let's do sidewalks. How do we use this money? Let's get nice planters. And so what came to pass was that our downtown streetscape was a hodgepodge, right? Didn't have consistency, didn't have a lot of branding. And so we got together and we said, it's time, right? We've been a special improvement district for 30 years. It's time for us to do a major investment in our streets. The plan alone has cost us about $45,000. The plan alone, right? And so property owners didn't pay for it, business owners didn't pay for it, right? We were able to do that because of the collective investment, right, that comes from this special improvement, or this special assessment. So now, what's the next step for us? Well, because we are an accredited Main Street community, because we are a designated special improvement district, because we are a nonprofit, we are in the correct position to go out for grants, right, that are gonna enable us to actually execute this incredible project. And so the dedicated stream of funding is allowing us to hire the professionals, right, to make that investment in the infrastructure, right? That's not just gonna last today, that infrastructure is gonna be in place for the next 20, 30 years, right? And so I think that, you know, is what's important to us as well, right? It's great to have events, it's great that we're able to, you know, bring a lot of people downtown, but it's those infrastructure improvements, right? It's the marketing, it's all those things that we're able to provide that actually bring those businesses into town that wanna stay, that wanna invest, right? And eliminate that vacancy. So it is kind of like a cycle, right? So the return is really much more than we can calculate, right, with mere numbers, so.
Thank you, and I will just add that Somerville is, similarly to what we're hoping to become, both Main Street and an improvement district.
Yes.
And utilizing both programs and both strategies and both support networks to be able to execute all of the programs, the funding, and the support to be able to do what it is that we do.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, I really wanted to touch on this and then I'll shut up. There is a better use of Olivia's energy than to be begging people for money to fund programs, right? And I think that, you know, because, you know, I am so blessed that our assessment is what it is, because although when I go out for sponsorships, it's really about solidifying partnerships in the community, right? It's really about saying, hey, do you want to be invested in this program? It's not because I need it, right? Because I do have the money to fund these programs. So I think that the energy, right, the do more is so important for Burgersville.
Thank you.
I have one quick one.
Oh, Stephen has a point. And then we're gonna open it up to the floor right after that.
So, very quick, my I think most important ROI is, I'm like you, I have a very well-funded city. I don't really have to go after grants, and even if I did, Milburn, depending on the list, is either the first or second wealthiest town in the state. We are not particularly exciting for grantors to give money to. So what I have is pretty much what I have. You know when I really needed money? September 2nd, 2001. That was when Ida came through downtown Milburn and flooded 75 businesses in 1 hour. And that next morning, I was on the ground at 6 a.m. with our business administrator and our Department of Public Works, and I talked to 75 business owners who watched their entire lives go into the street with mud and water. And I was there to tell them, listen, we have a plan. We will be okay. And because we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and because we have a staff that is dedicated to doing this, myself and my marketing director, we raised $420,000 in 3 weeks. And I gave 100% of that 420 to the 75 businesses that were shuttered. We gave grants from $1,000 to $10,000. No questions asked. If you could prove you had damage, and we scored it, you received that grant. That was not a loan, they didn't have to pay it back. Every single one of those 75 businesses is reopened. You want to talk ROI? It's not about dollars and cents. Sometimes it's about community. And knowing that your entire life was just washed away, and knowing that the town came to your rescue and put money in your hand in 3 weeks, that makes a hell of a difference. And it makes